Today, our aim is that students will be able to solve equations with one step. Let's fill in some important vocabulary. First, an equation is a statement that two expressions are equal, represented by the sign equals. Inverse operations are operations that undo each other. So the following operations are inverses: addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, squares, and square roots. And today we're going to be learning how to solve. Solve means to determine what number or numbers the variable represents. Here are the key points. To solve an equation, use the inverse operation to undo the operation. Your goal is to have the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. Any operation that you do to one side of the equal sign, you must do on the other side. Let's look at some examples. Example number 1, x plus 4 equals 9. The directions tell us to solve each equation for x. Here we see addition. We need to do the inverse operation to get rid of this plus 4 over here on this side of the equal sign and get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides of the equation. 4 minus 4 is 0. It cancels out. And I'm left with x equals 9 minus 4, which is 5. I put a box around my final answer. The second example says x minus 12 equals negative 20. Again, I'm going to draw my dotted line to separate the left side of the equation from the right side of the equation. I see a subtraction here. I know to undo this and get the x by itself, I need to do the inverse operation. The inverse of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides of the equation. Think of this as a negative. So minus 12 plus 12, or negative 12 plus 12 is 0. It cancels out. And I'm left with x equals, then I have negative 20 plus 12. Negative 20 plus 12 gives me negative 8. And my final answer is x equals negative 8. Now I can check my answer by plugging it back into my equation. So if I plug in negative 8 where x is, I have negative 8 minus 12 equals negative 12. Now let's see if that's true. Negative 8 minus 12, or negative 8 plus a negative 12 equals negative, I wrote this wrong, negative 20. Well, negative 8 plus negative 12 does equal negative 20. Negative 20 equals negative 20. We did it correctly. And next one, we have x divided by 5 equals 7. In order to undo division, I need to do the inverse operation, which is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. This little dot means multiplication. Multiply and divide, they cancel each other out. They're inverse operations. So we have x equals 7 times 5 is 35. This last one, I have an invisible multiplication. I have negative 6 times x, or negative 6x, equals negative 1.5. In order to undo this multiplication, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. These negative 6 divided by negative 6 cancels out, and I'm left with x equals. Now, in order to figure this out, I'm going to need to do a little bit of division. I'll do it over here to the side. I know a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. So now I just need to do 1.5 divided by 6. Well, 6 can't go into 1, but 6 can go into 15 2 times. If there's a decimal point here, I bring the decimal point directly up. 2 times 6 gives me 12. Subtract 12, and I am left with 3. I need to add a 0. Bring down my 0. 6 goes into 30 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. And I have no more remainder now. So my answer here is 0.25, or 0.25. And again, I knew it was positive because a negative divided by a negative is positive. Now it's time for you try.